Story 1. The Voice That Knew My Name. I used to be a night janitor at a small-town elementary school in rural Pennsylvania. Quiet shifts, no kids around, and plenty of time to think. Most nights, it was peaceful. Almost too peaceful. One evening, around 2 a.m., I was mopping the hallway outside the second-grade classrooms. The overhead lights flickered, something they did often, so I ignored it. But then, I heard it. A faint whisper. It wasn't a word, just breathy murmurs, like someone trying to get my attention without making a sound. I stopped mopping, held my breath. Then, clear as day, I heard someone whisper, "Brian." That's my name. I whipped around. Empty hallway. I told myself it was just my imagination, the stress, maybe I was hearing things. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was nearby. I turned back to my cart and kept mopping. But a minute later, I heard it again. Closer this time. Brian, softer, dragging, like it came from the air itself. I dropped my mop and sprinted to the front office. I checked every door. Locked. The cameras? Nothing unusual. I thought maybe a coworker was playing a prank, but I was the only one scheduled that night. The next night, I came back, nervously. This time, I brought earbuds. Music drowned out the silence. Until it didn't. Halfway through my shift, the music suddenly cut out. Dead silence. I pulled out the earbuds and heard it. This time, right behind me, "Brian, come here." I spun around. Nothing. But I swear I felt breath on my neck. I bolted again, locked myself in the staff lounge, and waited out the rest of the night. That was the last shift I ever worked. A few weeks later, I ran into an old teacher at the grocery store. I told her I used to work nights there. She looked at me funny and said, "Oh, didn't they tell you about what happened to the last janitor before you? Apparently, a man named Brian, my name, used to clean the school years ago. One night, he had a heart attack and died in that same hallway. Since then, no one named Brian has lasted more than a week." I never went back. Story 2. The Thing in the Baby Monitor. Back in 2017, my wife and I had just brought home our first child, a baby girl named Emily. Like any first-time parents, we were overly cautious. We had a high-end baby monitor that streamed video and audio straight to our phones. I'd check it obsessively, even when I was sitting right outside her room. One night, about 2 weeks in, I was up late scrolling through Reddit in the living room when I got a motion alert from the monitor. I tapped the app. What I saw didn't make sense. The screen showed Emily lying in her crib, sleeping peacefully, but there was someone standing next to her crib. Still. Silent. Just watching. I froze. The figure was tall, too tall. Its head was tilted unnaturally to one side, like it was studying her. Its face? Blurred out by the monitor's low light, or maybe something else. I bolted upstairs, heart pounding, and flung the door open. Nothing. No one. Emily was sleeping, undisturbed. I checked the closet. Under the crib. The window. All locked. No signs of entry. I told my wife the next morning. She didn't believe me. Said maybe it was a glitch in the app. But I know what I saw. A few nights later, I got another alert. Same thing. I opened the app. This time, the figure was looking directly at the camera. Again, I ran upstairs. Again, no one there. But this time, something had changed. Emily was awake, eyes wide open, staring into the corner of the room. Not crying, just staring. I picked her up, trying to calm her, but she wouldn't stop looking at that same spot. The next morning, I rewatched the video. But it was gone. The app said corrupted file. That had never happened before. Over the next few nights, it got worse. Emily started waking up at exactly 3:14 a.m., crying hysterically, always staring at that same corner. One night, I decided to sit in her room with the lights off, monitor running, just to prove to myself it was all in my head. At 3:14 a.m., I heard whispering. I swear to God, whispering, coming from the baby monitor, but not from the room. A voice. Low, gravelly, almost amused. "She's not yours." I grabbed Emily and ran. We stayed at my parents' house for 2 weeks. When we finally returned, I threw out the monitor and bought a completely different one. Since then, we've never had another incident. But sometimes, late at night, Emily talks in her sleep. She says things like, "The tall man is watching." And once, she said, "Daddy, he says you can't take me away again." Story 3. The Man in the Crawl Space. This happened to a woman named Hannah in Portland, Oregon in 2014. She had just moved into a new rental home, small, cozy, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. It was the kind of place where nothing bad should ever happen. The first few weeks were normal, but she started to notice strange things almost immediately after she unpacked. She'd leave her keys on the counter, and they'd end up in the bathroom. The kitchen faucet would be dripping when she was sure she'd turned it off. And twice, she woke up to find the fridge door wide open. It was small stuff, nothing she couldn't explain away. Until one night, she was lying in bed and heard footsteps. Not from outside, but above her. Hannah lived in a one-story house. No attic space. No upstairs neighbors. She froze. The footsteps were soft, deliberate, like someone tiptoeing. She waited, listening, then grabbed her phone and called the landlord the next morning. He insisted no one had ever reported anything like that before. A few days later, while putting away boxes in a closet she rarely used, she noticed a small hatch in the ceiling, almost hidden behind an old support beam. It led to the crawl space between the ceiling and the roof. She hadn't seen it before. She asked the landlord about it. He claimed it was just an old maintenance panel, nothing important. But she had a bad feeling. That night, she left a small piece of paper sticking out of the hatch, just enough so if it opened, the paper would fall. She checked the next morning. The paper was on the floor. She called the police. What they found still gives me chills. There was a man living up there. An ex-con, mid-40s, dirty, malnourished, and violent. He had been sneaking down at night, stealing food, watching her sleep. They found a mattress, blankets, food wrappers, and this is the worst part, photos of Hannah. Photos taken from inside the house. When they arrested him, he said he thought they were in a relationship, that she knew he was there and didn't mind. He had been up there for almost 3 weeks. The landlord was horrified. The crawl space had been used for wiring a decade ago, and he thought it was sealed. Hannah moved out the next day. She still checks the ceilings every time she moves into a new place. And maybe you should too. Story 4, The Room That Wasn't There. Logan, a single father in upstate New York, was looking for a fresh start with his 6-year-old daughter, Ellie. His wife had passed away 2 years prior, and moving into a quiet farmhouse in the countryside seemed like the peace they both needed. The house was old, built in the 1920s, but well kept. It had 4 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and plenty of space for Ellie to run around. She loved it from day one. But within a week, Logan started noticing something strange. Ellie kept talking about the red room. At first, he thought it was her imagination. Kids create fantasy worlds all the time. But she described it in detail: red wallpaper, a rocking chair, shelves with old toys, and a woman who would read to her every night. Logan was confused. There was no red room in the house. He checked every inch of the property. For bedrooms, a basement, a dusty attic. No red wallpaper, no rocking chair. Nothing remotely like what Ellie described. When he asked Ellie to show him, she pointed down the upstairs hallway and said, "It's at the end. Past the mirror." The problem was, there was no hallway past the mirror. The mirror she pointed at was bolted to the wall, facing nothing but plaster behind it. Things escalated quickly after that. Logan started waking up to the sound of the rocking chair creaking. The smell of old perfume would waft through the house late at night. Ellie began acting distant, withdrawn. She said the woman in the red room told her not to trust him. One night, after hearing Ellie whispering to someone over the baby monitor, Logan stormed into her room and froze. The mirror at the end of the hallway was open, like a door. He walked to it in shock and peered inside. Behind the mirror was a hidden room, with red wallpaper, a rocking chair, and shelves lined with dusty old toys. He pulled Ellie out of the house and called the sheriff. The investigation revealed that the previous owners had sealed off the room in the 1950s. A young woman, mentally unstable, had been locked away by her parents and eventually died in that room. Her name was Annabelle. She had lost a daughter of her own, and now she thought Ellie was hers. Logan moved out immediately. To this day, Ellie won't talk about what happened in that room. But sometimes, when Logan passes a mirror, he swears he sees the outline of a rocking chair swaying gently in a red room that shouldn't exist.